Hello and welcome to Nerd News Now for November 14th, 2018. I'm Mark along with Miss Jen and Ashford. Today is a very somber day as earlier this week, Stanley Lieber, otherwise known as Stan the Man Lee, the creator of and founder of Marvel Comics, passed away. Guys, this was immediately felt all through the Nerdverse. Especially via Twitter, social media. I mean, it was just like millions of tweets, hashtags, pictures of him at cons, pictures of everyone's favorite characters. And it's just like, I don't think that anyone out there was more of a comic book icon than he was. Miss Jen, initial thoughts on his passing?
So I actually learned about it because a friend of mine, Jesse James from Jesse James Comics, he's really connected to the internet in the industry. He called me. He was like really early on before I think the internet really got a hold of it. Matter of fact, he had to call around and verify the information because that wasn't widely known yet. And I just bawled. It's like one of those things you don't expect people to call you about. I really somehow believed, probably like a lot of us, that I really believed that he was some kind of supernatural being and was just going to go on forever. So it was totally a gut punch. I've heard that a lot. People say it felt like a gut punch, and it really did. I've only been in the industry for 2.5 decades, and I certainly didn't know him personally as a good friend or anything, but I've had interactions. It's just, he's iconic for the industry. He transcended like the going between being just an editor, which a lot of people don't know editors' names. Only for in the industry do you know them. But he had a huge impact. He created characters and formed characters, helped guide characters and whole universes. And he was a wonderful gentleman in his own right. And I'm sad to see him go, but I'm happy he gets to be with his wife because I know he loved her.
And they were married for 69 years.
Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Ashford, initial thoughts on that?
Yeah, I remember I received a text from someone and I thought, okay, maybe that's not real. And then you texted me, I'm like, oh no. But I was someone where when I was a kid, on Sundays, I would read the Sunday Funnies. Mm-hmm. Right? I was reading Blondie, things like that, and you would get Spider-Man. And I remember I didn't understand it because you get like 3 panels, but you had to read it every Sunday, but also Monday through Friday. So I always saw that name Stan Lee, even as like an elementary kid. So again, we're dealing with someone where we talked about Mickey Mouse. Stan Lee's 95. He's before Mickey Mouse. All right, so this is another instance where there just always was Stan Lee. Yeah. We don't remember a time or an influence in popular culture where he didn't have his fingerprints in it as far as making heroes more ground level and relatable. You know, with Fantastic Four, they're arguing, they're like, wait, what's going on? This was a miscalculation, and we don't have capes. So it felt like you could relate to them. And then immediately I just started thinking about my high school years and junior high years where I was listening to a lot of like East Coast rap. And like I really love the Wu-Tang Clan. And all throughout that first album, it's talking about Dr. Doom, it's talking about Neighborhood Spider-Man. So again, you couldn't escape it.
And he just seemed like such like almost like a mythical being.
Yes.
Just like just magic. And I first was aware of his presence. Saturday morning, they used to have a cartoon named Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. And they actually did like an homage cover. I think one of the variants was it Iceman last week. They had Spider-Man, Iceman, and Firestar on the cover. So I grabbed that without having read any of the Iceman book, but just because that variant cover really reached back to those memories. And I just remembered his voice emanating, and I saw someone else on Twitter about my same age. It might have been like Todd Knott, the artist.
Oh, yeah.
On Twitter, he was saying how like his first introduction to anything comic book was Stan Lee's voice, and there was someone else, Kevin Smith, I believe, said that he knew his voice before he knew his face or
Yes.
knew who he was,
Mhm.
because he would narrate, the whole True Believers thing and Excelsior, and there's all kinds of, they did like a Marvel song and just a whole bunch of stuff with his voice, but he was really like he kind of took a different path in the 70s. He went from, writing and editing to really like an upfront, I'm going to be the face of comics, I'm going to champion comics to the public. Because it was like a big, it just like the stereotypes that Ashford and I have talked about a lot on TV shows, movies, where the nerds are getting beat up and go read comics. Like, a lot of people did not take comics seriously.
Yeah.
And he kind of championed that. And one of the big things he wanted to do was give his characters all kinds of flaws. So, like, Peter Parker would be worried about his damn dandruff, having girl problems, stuff like that. And he just wanted to bring, like, not only a comical element to it, but, like, a real-life element to it. Because one thing I saw that he said was he was tired when heroes would see a monster and they would just run up and punch it. He wanted for people to be like, hey, someone's dressed up early for Halloween. That's cool. And they go, oh, well, maybe I should go investigate that. And then just what he was able to do. And the reason I say he's like almost like a mythical being is this guy, joined the armed forces in 1942, primarily doing, writing pamphlets and films. And he even worked with Dr. Seuss. Yeah. I mean, so like that is like, I'm waiting for a biopic about him. I remember 2 or 3 years ago, people were flipping out on the internet because someone had doctored a movie poster that looked like it was official with Bryan Cranston as Stan Lee. People were freaking out. So if that were to actually happen, that'd be awesome. But I mean, I think this is gonna, like, people are gonna realize that now we need to see about this guy from a very early age on, and his father was an immigrant tailor, and he just had like these dreams of, I want to make stories and like fun stories, and he was just, and like I said, like he took kind of a different role in the 70s where he went out and did like the promotional aspect. So he was the face of Marvel, but he was also the face of comics. And I don't know if there's anyone right now that can really do that. Mm-hmm. And I don't think they need to. I think maybe we go forward as like a solidified community rather than, because he already did all the work for us. Yes. So I think on like a personal basis, whether we're like famous, not famous, a writer of comics, a reader of comics, an artist or an admirer of art, I think he's already set that legacy, that groundwork, where we can just like be free. I mean, as a community to enjoy that work.
Right.
So we're going to remember him for the rest of the segment. First off, Miss Jen, what is his favorite character of yours that he created?
Oh, I really love J. Jonah Jameson because he's so complex. He's like, he hates Spider-Man, but he ends up like eventually marrying Aunt May, and it's just like this weird complexity of a character. It's just like, I don't know. Over the years, he's been written more and more into the lore as less being just like the editor that like hates Peter Parker and makes him give him pictures for really cheap, and more of it's like really built into his life, and it kind of speaks to the way Stan built characters that like really crazy. Like, this is an everyman. He has all the flaws. He wanted, I think, everyone to be able to find a character and identify with a character of his. I think that he embodies that kind of like crass, but I have a soft core guy.
Asher, what about you?
You know what? I mean, there's so many, but I'm going to talk about Spider-Man just because it seemed like that was a character where it was almost like Stan Lee knew him, right? And there's that whole thing of I'm kind of socially inadequate, but then when I put on this mask, I'm cracking jokes, I'm confident, I'm from Queens, so when I go to the big city, Manhattan, this is like I'm from out of town because I'm going to Manhattan, big city, swinging skyscraper to skyscraper, and it's something about like when you watch a Disney movie, like the spirit of Disney is in there. And in all the Spider-Man movies, no matter which one it is, or Spider-Man cartoons, it seems like they never miss the spirit of what Spider-Man is. And I guess that spirit has the spirit of Marvel, which goes back to Stan Lee.
Yep.
Wow.
And it's funny that you guys mentioned the two characters you did, J. Jonah Jameson and Spider-Man, because, you know, we had that huge Spider-Man game on PS4 earlier this year, which, you know, obviously millions and millions of people bought and played, and both of those characters figure prominently in that. And J. Jonah Jameson, they use him now as like a radio shock jock, this like hard leaning left, you know, like Rush Limbaugh type, Alex Jones type journalist. But it just shows you that the characters, even though they've been tailored over the years by other writers, like they still stand true to that as being like people with flaws, no pun intended, but grounded. You know, unlike Superman, who, you know, can just go the Forge of Solitude. Like Peter Parker could never do that. Yeah. He's got to change out his costume and just deal with real life. Do the dishes, pay the rent. Paying the rent is like, I think that is one of the most heroic things you can do in this economy. So to me, and I'm being serious, like Batman never has to worry about the rent. Superman never had to worry about the rent. No. And like, he just put real life issues in that. Another thing he did is he was very instrumental in kind of shaping the way the Comics Code Authority worked, because there was that run on Spider-Man where was it I think it was one of the Osborns, they were, or maybe was it Hobgoblin or Green Goblin? But anyway, there was like a drug issue, so he basically took that off of Marvel and sort of like forced their hand. Like he basically put it out, people bought it up, and like kind of almost usurped them in a way, but it also made them look and realize like, okay, maybe we were being too harsh, so we got to pull that back. I mean, so he was a pioneer in a lot of ways like that, and I think you know, even outside of comics, being able to go into like make a cameo in a movie like Mallrats, like that was a really big deal. That was one of Kevin Smith's dreams, and like he actually like, it's not just like a cameo like you see, you know, real quick.
A real part.
It's like a real part, like probably 20 minutes of screen time and that really good dialogue with Jason Lee's character, and just like, again, his voice, it just like, in my ear it permeates anyway, and of course the whole with great power comes great responsibility, and just hearing that, but like really feeling like that guy meant it. And you know, people always bring up all the time the artists, you know, Kirby and Ditko, and those guys were also, they deserve a lot of credit. But what Stan Lee did was he, you know, he took it upon himself to get out into the public and kind of sell those characters. And I think that's where like his legacy lies. I saw in doing research for today's show, I came across an interview from 2012 that Gene Simmons did, like a back and forth for about 50 minutes. So
Gene's a huge nerd.
YouTube that. He really is. But what was crazy is you see that guy as like an icon, a game changer, right? And because I don't fully understand Kiss, I'll be honest. I mean, I know like rock and roll every night, and I know that they're like masters of merchandise to the point where they have like coffins and urns. But what I didn't know is that, you know, he was reading one of Stan's books, and he wrote in to Marvel as a 13-year-old, and Stan Lee wrote him back a postcard that was hand-signed that said, "You will be great," and that like changed his life.
Wow.
I mean, so just to have that impact on people, and you know, he was waxing poetic about him, calling him like Shakespearean, not in the sense of the prose necessarily, but like how Shakespeare impacted you know, decades and centuries. That's what Stan Lee's done since the 60s. And I'm just trying to imagine, like, what are kids thinking when they see these cameos in the movies, because he's done like 18, 19, 20 of them just in the MCU. So do you think that legacy is going to stay intact because of the MCU, like those kids? Because obviously if they see him the first time, they're going to be like, okay, that was funny, I don't know who that was. But then you see it 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times. Then you're going to look that up. Ashford, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think his legacy, as long as we don't have like a nuclear explosion where we blow everything up, his legacy is going to be forever. It's going to last as long as Disney, because now, like you mentioned before, like once they see the cameo, like who's that? And then these kids, they can look things up. And it's going to be a lot of things packaged together that's going to be well done, where they're going to say, this was the landscape. And then Stan Lee came in and he fostered this. And then this how it changed the landscape. And then this is how, like Greek mythology or anything else, these symbols are all around you and you don't realize it. All of that's Stan Lee's fingerprints on it. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, his legacy is going to be as long as we have media, his legacy is going to be around.
Well, I fully intend never to let his memory die. I'm going to make sure that the next generation understands who he was and the importance that he had for our industry and for our entertainment industry, not just for comics, for everything that they enjoy and love on TV and in film right now has his fingerprints in it.
And, another cool thing, too, is I think, like, then somewhere in the 90s, Marvel went bankrupt.
Yes, it did.
Okay, so then we get Blade, we get X-Men, and they were like, okay, this is cool. And then Marvel, I mean, it exploded, right? It's everywhere. So the cool thing is that Stan Lee, he got to see it, but not just see it, but, like, get to, like, be in the movies, enjoy it, go to these conventions, meet these 5-year-olds that are saying, we're going to make sure his legacy, like we're saying, like, oh, we're going to make sure no one forgets it. No, the 10-year-olds are going to be like, I'm not going to leave that to you, old man. I'm going to make sure it's. So it's an unbelievable life. It really is, because think about everything that he went through: World War II, the 60s, creating X-Men to reflect what's going on in the 60s in the United States, and just being able to see the ups and downs, seeing comics where it's not this in the dungeon thing, but now it's everywhere. I can wear a Spider-Man shirt in public and not get shamed.
That's right.
It is unbelievable, his life and his impact and legacy.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I don't think that he's going anywhere anytime soon.
Yeah. Anytime anyone watches Big Bang Theory and syndication,
yeah,
Stan Lee's there.
Anything.
And he opened up a lot of, he wrote a lot of diverse characters, which we're now finally seeing pay the dividends on the big screen. Mm-hmm. And that's where it's like going to have the most impact, because it's reaching, millions and millions and millions of people.
I'll try to put this on the Twitter feed, but there's a video of Stan Lee talking about, who is included at Marvel, and it's a beautiful speech. Yeah. Very beautiful. That tent is huge, and the inclusion is the globe.
Yeah.
Yeah. He nailed it.
There was a really wonderful post by David Gabriel, who's the VP of retailer relations at Marvel. He's like basically as high up as I can reach probably in the Marvel to get direct contact. And he's the kindest gentleman. And he posted up something about Stan Lee, and it just was like how Stan encouraged him to be who he was and love who he loved, and to reach for everything, and really welcomed him into the Marvel offices, and it just like really impacted him. Like from as early as 6, he felt what Stan was trying to say, which was like, we're all human beings on this earth together, and you're all important.
Yeah, and I think, one thing we can do is go back and read a lot of those Stan Lee soapbox, because he's saying a lot of powerful stuff that we need in 2018.
Yes.
But on that note, we're going to remember him forever. Mm-hmm. And on that note, Excelsior, and we'll be back after this.
Football season is here, and Woodlands Online Sports is back better than ever. Watch all the action on KVQT 21 Houston and woodlandsonline.com.
For home repairs, call John Moore, where quality is guaranteed. If the problem returns, so will we. No extra charge.
Call John, get more. 730-2525.
All right, welcome back to Nerd News Now. So, box office this week was stolen by The Grinch.
What?
Remake of The Grinch, an animated movie form by Benedict Cumberbatch, $66 million. So, what
That's
do you?
insane.
Well, I guess another question is a lot of people that I run into are really complaining about Christmas starting too early. So, first of all, what do y'all think about that?
Okay, let me say this. If I live somewhere where it is snowing, and let's say if it was snowing in October, I would be talking about Christmas.
Be like,
But since we're out, like outside in Texas and it's hot, then I don't want to talk about it. But it's actually like proper cold outside. It's like 30 degrees. So I try my best not to talk about Christmas, like singing the songs, wearing Christmas hats until December 1. But hey, have your fun, man. Have your fun. What about you? What do you think about people starting Christmas too early, whatever that means?
okay. Full disclosure, on my date with my husband on Saturday, we put on Christmas music in the car. No lie.
Now, look, you put on the Christmas music because you and your husband, you enjoy it and you love it. Now, a store playing the music because it's this trick to get me to start spending, that is something that's horrible. Okay, some advertising.
So you don't like as a psychological
tool to get me to start spending, that's a problem. But me, like, I can't wait for the Christmas songs. I can't wait for that Christmas tree. And just the Christmas spirit itself, I love it. Absolutely.
I'm a little bit glad that retail starts it early, only because I get like almost like public anxiety going after, Friday after Thanksgiving.
Mm-hmm.
It's just crazy now.
Yeah.
And we can do most of our shopping at home, but like people still want to go out to the malls, the movies, and it's crazy out there. But I guess people were ready for the Grinch, and I guess they're ready to take their kids, and like I think that's one of those things. They did the Jim Carrey live action remake. They did this, so Christmas sells. I mean, there's always Santa related movies, Grinch related movies.
So is Benedict Cumberbatch using his accent, or did he change it? Is he American?
It's changed. I mean, it might be like a British Grinch, but it's
okay.
Still the
because his accent is awesome.
Yeah.
I wish he had his accent for Doctor Strange.
Yeah,
but I was just wondering.
Yeah. But so we had that happen, and then now as far as a big movie trailer came out, and this is something that I know, Miss Jen, you'll be able to talk about because I guess I missed the boat on it. But Detective Pikachu, the trailer for it came out. It is freaking awesome. I like, and the thing I missed the boat on is Pokemon altogether. Yeah. So talk about that a little bit. Before we circle back to the trailer, but just like Pokemon and its kind of legacy and how it's still wildly popular today.
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting. So Pokemon started about 95 in Japan, but didn't make it into America until really late 99, early 2000. And it was on fire for quite a few years, but it got really quiet. I would say 2002 to 2005 at a real lull for both the card game and for anything else about it. It was weird that it happened that quickly. It was like everything and then nothing. And then from then on, it's been like this steady burn of awesome stuff. So you've got videos, video games. The card game is what I know most intimately. It's still going really strong. It shows no signs of stopping. It's kind of like, it's not as long-lived as, say, like Magic the Gathering, but it doesn't look like it has an end date. It looks like they're still going to put a new release out for the game every quarter. And it's awesome. It has a huge bunch of followers. The thing I like about it the most is that for personally, my kids came home from first grade saying, "Oh, Mom, Pokemon, Pokemon, Pokemon." I was like, okay, I don't know anything about the card game at all. And so we went and got caught up into they have an official league system, which kind of helps kids learn how to play, and they have organized meetings at different places. And for my kids, Pokemon was honestly their first encouragement to learn how to read, their first math, their first strategy, and their first sportsmanship. All those things were brought to my kids specifically from Pokemon. So for me, I've got nothing but mad love for it.
Let me ask you a question. So What about that Pokemon app where you had the app? Is that still a thing?
It is actually. They keep adding new things to it that make it things that people desire to do. Like we had a raid at my store on Saturday, so people just show up. You know what's happening because people you've never seen before are all running around your store with their phone out. And a year and a half ago, if this had happened, then you'd be calling the cops because something's up. There's something super sketch. But no, everyone's playing Pokemon and they're all super happy and friendly. But yeah, they keep adding things to it to make it so that it's interesting enough to go back to it.
So, I remember when that first came out, and I thought, oh, the business model for this is awesome. Sometimes you're on your Google Maps, and it takes you down a road, and you're like, this can't be the fastest way, right?
Yeah.
But I'm thinking like, okay, this app is free. It made me go by these stores. It made me go by this new neighborhood. So it's like, oh, maybe I might buy a house here, right? Mm-hmm. Like, it must be some type of contract going on. Don't kill me if I let go of a conspiracy. So I'm thinking like, wait a minute, that's the Pokemon setup as far as Pokemon go. Mm-hmm. That's cool when you want to do like tour this city. So as I'm trying to find the Pokemon, I'm also bumping, what's Pokemon plural? Pokemon? Pokemon. Okay. Poke-person. I don't know. Okay.
They're creatures.
Poke-fighter. All right. So, so I'm thinking as you're doing this, like, oh, that's where the Battle of Lexington Concord was. Oh, okay. This is where Lincoln was killed. Oh, I got 7 Pokemon, but this is where the Declaration of Independence was like, oh, okay. So I was thinking that's why it could be cool. It could take you on a tour while you're finding catch them all.
Yeah. Early on, there was no, I still don't think there's a way you can like request to be a gym or
Pokestop
or a stop.
Yeah,
I'm both a gym and a stop now for some reason, but it used to be all parks. It was like parks and public places.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Somehow I got.
And what's interesting about that? I bet you it's a big, huge following with senior citizens. Like we want to explore the city, we want to do something, they download that app. I bet you there's a lot of senior citizens that's doing it than you would think.
Yes, there was also a new version of it out there. It's the Ghostbusters. Someone came and busted a ghost in my store.
I'm not messing with that.
Yeah,
I'm
be careful. There's ghosts everywhere.
Yeah, I'm scared of that.
The only thing I would have to worry about is not falling off a cliff.
That's what I was thinking the whole time, the cliff thing.
Well, there was reports of that when it first came out.
You know what? That's an urban legend. Just like,
hey,
they put the sticks in the candy.
Well, I bet the cliff was really just steps and they scuffed their knee, but I still bet it happened.
No, what about the Uber drivers? Like, drive to this thing now.
Yeah. Like, stop here. Yeah. I mean, that's the only thing that gets me is when people are trying to just park and walk. If you're gonna do that, or have someone else drive.
I just think that's an awesome thing with my app. I see something there. This is unbelievable. It's the Jetsons.
It is a big social thing, though.
Yes.
People will be like, you'd have 3 people pull up at the park, and people will get out and be like, "What do you have?" Now you can trade, because for a long time it was just you got what you got, and now you can actually trade. So people will be out and be like, "What you got?" So it's like now it's even more social than just being outside together.
What is it called? Geo search?
It's just Pokemon Go.
No, but I mean the Geo where they got you go on these scavenger hunts, like you can find
geocaching.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. Not the same thing.
Not the same thing, but it's in the same family of things to do.
Mm-hmm. I love it. More of it.
So I'm most happy for this movie because it kind of makes me feel part of all that. Because I just did not understand Pokemon, but I love Ryan Reynolds, and if you haven't seen the trailer, it's hilarious. And also, it's obviously Ryan Reynolds' voice, but whenever he talks to people who aren't Justice Smith, who is the actor from things like The Get Down on Netflix and Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom. I guess that's going to be his Poke trainer or / partner because he's a detective. So he's a detective, which is funny. And then also Ryan Reynolds can talk to Justice Smith, but when he talks to anyone else, it's the whole Pika Pika thing.
And I didn't even know that. I was like, oh, okay, so that's day 2. Go Pika. I didn't even know that. I just remember I worked at a game room in the late 90s at Tilt Game Room in Greenspoint Mall. And we would have the Pikachu dolls like this. Mm-hmm. And people would try to tempt me oh, I don't want to win it. I'll give you $40 for it. I'm like, no, I didn't get in trouble for this. So I knew it was a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's going to be big. It's going to be.
I think it's going to make $1 billion.
Yeah.
Because the way the movie looks, it looks very modern with the humor, but it looks global.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
It's gonna kill it.
Yeah. Okay, let's go ahead and skip down to new comics this week because there's some big ones. And of course, our resident expert, Miss Jen. So I know about X-Men.
Yep.
So that's the big Marvel one. I know, Ashford, that you read Mr. Miracle.
Yes.
So by Tom King, that's wrapping up. That was a 12 of 12s coming out. And then I've been reading Classic Man by Gail Simone. That wraps up. So first, those two DC miniseries. Now, back in the day, they would kind of they would have Punisher limited series, and then if it sold well, they would just go ahead and parlay it and then do a series. So does that still happen nowadays?
Not so much. I think they really do have plans for at least the big two. I see that happen where they've got that they're part of the bigger storytelling universe. That they're a vehicle to get to the next big event that's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Probably not so much for Mr. Miracle. I don't know that they have something planned going forward for those guys. But Plastic Man's in the Terrifics, so.
Yeah, and I would think whenever a big writer like Gail Simone or Tom King, they may not have time to parlay it into a full series.
You may have something with that too.
Yeah. And Ashford, so real quick on Mr. Miracle, how do you like the way that series is shaped up?
I've loved it. It's confused me. It's made me excited. I want a big payoff for issue 12. I might not get it, but I want to find out, how is Mr. Miracle going to be engulfed in the rest of the DC universe? And I just read Justice League Odyssey, and at the end of that, Darkseid mentioned something about, and something in the multiverse. So okay, I guess this is how I can get Mr. Miracle, in after this. So
have you seen cover B for Mr. Miracle?
Yeah.
Just as Darkseid is.
Now I'll put it to you this way too. The way this Mr. Miracle is written, I would not be surprised if it ended up being a Netflix show. Because it seems like this independent movie, I mentioned this before, it's very forward thinking. It seems like it's making fun of the genre, but saluting the genre at the same time. And the way that I'm dealing with fourth world stuff or New Gods, but I'm doing this domesticated stuff, is written like an independent movie. Yep. So we'll see.
And also it could be good counter programming to the show that's finally happening with my favorite comic book escape artist, George Brown, Why the Last Man.
Right.
Yes.
So you have those two. I mean,
they're going to really do it?
Oh, yeah, they're doing it.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
Only 5 years?
FX.
Okay.
So it's going to... Yeah, no, it's been a long time.
Mm-hmm.
So we have those two wrapping up for DC. Okay, so now tell me about the relaunch, or I don't know how many times it's relaunched, but Uncanny X-Men is back. It feels weird anytime you go through a long period without Uncanny in the title. So we're finally getting that back.
Yeah, you'll be excited. It's really, really good. It's I'm not going to tell you very much about it because I don't want to spoil anything. I'm not going to be the spoilery girl. But I will tell you this, in true Marvel style, the way they do film and everything else, it has a big main story. And then you have 2 pages or 3 pages of ads. You really think that you're at the end of the book and that you're just getting to I'm coming soon stuff. No, don't stop there. Because it has 3 or 4 kind of epilogue stories that are not epilogue. They're actually prologue. So they actually go back and show you specifically Bishop's role in what's going on.
Oh, cool.
So Bishop plays a very prominent role in this launch. So that makes me very happy. So you'll see him. The biggest mystery is, I can tell you that Multiple Man shows up, Jimmy Madrox, and all he wants to know is, in all of his different, because he makes many multiples of himself, they're all asking, where's Kitty Pryde? And so it's this whole time jump loop where you see him ask that, and then you work your way back to finding out where'd she go. So, yeah.
Sounds awesome.
Really, really good.
And I know, issue 1, so it's a larger issue.
Huge.
A little bit higher price point, but it's written by Ed Brisson, Kelly Thompson, and Matthew Rosenberg, who are all awesome. And one of my favorite artists, Mark Bagley, is smart within those pages as well. Any other notable releases? I know Firefly is getting a new
Two
comic,
huge
right?
ones. Yeah,
Okay.
Firefly's super big.
Okay.
It's really great. It'll make you so nostalgic for the show. It's just like the show never stopped. That just throws you right back in. All the characters are alive. No one's dead. It's just like Serenity never happened. Yeah, it was such a good feel-good book. It left you on a good cliffhanger. Yeah, and everyone's acting their parts really well. So happy to see Wash.
Yeah.
I almost cried. You just have him be doing his dumb stuff. Like in the first couple pages, Mal walks in and is like, "Going, are you aware that the engine's on fire?" And he's like, "I guess so." It's like the normal thing. Like, what do you plan about doing that? Not making it on fire. So yeah. And then the other really big book, and the reason why everyone like had to write a huge check that was a comic book store owner this week is there's also Bloodshot book drops. It has this really awesome 1 in 250 cover. That's a glass covered book.
Really? How does that work?
It is glass. It is a full comic book and then a 1/4-inch glass slabbed on the top. So it's actually like cut into the glass underneath. So it's like etched under.
Well, not that you would, but could you read that copy? Or is it, is it, like, I'd be afraid to touch it.
It's so cool because Valiant doesn't even trust Diamond to touch it at all. They send it directly to you. It doesn't go through the system. It's not even on your invoice. It just arrives. There's a million covers for the book, and they're all so gorgeous. But yeah, it's I like the book because you don't have to know anything about Bloodshot to start. But what's funny about it is that it actually starts the story, which what seems like an origin story for the character. But if you've ever read Bloodshot, you're like, wait a minute, none of this is right. Are they changing everything about the character? This isn't cool. But then they have this like awesome twist. It's so good. I'm excited because we're trying to get everybody informed and excited because the movie's coming out. So you got Vin Diesel showing up to play the part, and then Exo Manowar is going to be in the movie as well, played by, I can't remember his name, but he's from Outlander. So yeah, there's people are going to have to drop some big dollars tomorrow. I'm just saying, it's just the way it's going to be.
And there's just so many variants of X-Men, and like you said, Bloodshot. Now, is Bloodshot the one that's written by Vita Ayala?
Yes.
Yeah, because I got a preview of that. It was cool. So I'm going to be checking that one out. Well, that's all the time we have on Nerd News Now for today. Tune in next week. We'll be back with all the awesome news of world of nerds and geeks. And we'll just end it with a quote from Stan Lee. With great power comes great responsibility. Excelsior. See you next time.